I would like to make a special request to those who haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet. Please do subscribe now. And if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Now we'll move on to today's story. We hope you enjoy it. Let's begin. Today I'm going to share an incredible and spine-chilling incident that happened to my office colleague Charles' uncle about 20 years ago in 2000 or 2001. Charles' uncle James lived right next door to his maternal grandfather's house, and James shared an extraordinary bond with him, not just as grandfather and grandson, but like two brothers or best friends. They always roamed and traveled together, attending festivals, celebrations, and going on trips side by side. At that time, a big annual fair was held in their area, a special attraction for the locals with countless stalls, food vendors, toy shops, and entertainment. The day before the fair was to open, James and his grandfather went to the site to see how the preparations were going. As they walked around, they came across an enormous ancient banyan tree with countless branches and hanging roots, its surroundings wrapped in an aura of mystery. The grandfather, looking at the tree, challenged James. "You're supposed to be very brave. Can you climb this banyan tree tonight at 3 o'clock and show me?" James was a naturally stubborn and adventurous person, someone who could never resist a challenge or a bet. He asked, "How old is this tree?" The grandfather replied, "It must be about 100 years old." James smiled and said, "What's so hard about climbing a 100-year-old tree at 3 in the morning? It's nothing at all." The grandfather said, "All right then, tonight at 3 o'clock you'll climb this tree. Let's see how brave you really are." At 3 in the morning, while the grandfather watched from a distance, James began to climb the massive banyan tree. The night was pitch dark except for the faint glow of the moon, and the huge tree, with its countless branches and twisting roots, was challenging to climb. After a long struggle, when he finally pulled himself up, James noticed something that shook him to the core. On another branch of the tree, a figure draped in a white cloth was sitting quietly. The sight was so strange and terrifying that James was gripped by sheer terror. Frantically, he tried to make his way down the tree as quickly as possible, but before he could fully descend, something unseen and sinister possessed him. The next morning, when James went to the fair with his grandfather, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. His behavior appeared completely normal, as if nothing had happened. He was completely normal. The grandfather said, "Tell me what you'd like to eat. I'll buy it for you, since you won the bet yesterday." James replied, "I want fried fish." So the grandfather took him to a shop where a vendor was frying shrimp. And what happened next shocked everyone. James started picking up the shrimp, one after another, and kept eating until he had finished all 200 pieces. Not only that, after eating the shrimp, he went to a nearby shop and devoured 10 or 20 pitas as well. The sheer quantity of food he consumed was unimaginable for any normal person. The grandfather was completely stunned and couldn't comprehend how this was possible. After wandering around the fair a bit longer, they returned home. Upon reaching the house, James's behavior changed drastically. He became strange and aggressive, cursing and behaving wildly. The situation grew even more alarming when one day he cut off the big toe of his father, the grandfather. This horrifying act made the family and neighbors realize that something was seriously wrong with James. People started suggesting that maybe he was of marriageable age and that getting him married would solve the problem. But on the very day when all the wedding arrangements were to take place, an unbelievable event occurred. The house began experiencing strange electrical disturbances. In an area where the rest of the neighborhood had a normal supply, their house kept losing and regaining electricity repeatedly. Even more terrifying was that the tin walls of their house became electrified, shocking anyone who touched them. Due to this abnormal and dangerous situation, the wedding had to be called off for that day. After that, the grandfather and James made yet another bet. This one was even more unimaginable. The grandfather asked, "Can you eat an entire cauldron of biryani and 4 whole goats worth of meat?" This was a quantity meant for about 200 people, an absolutely impossible feat for any human being. But James replied with full confidence, "That's no problem at all. I can do it." Incredibly, within just half an hour, James finished an entire cauldron of biryani and all the meat from 4 goats. Everyone present was left in a state of shock and disbelief. After finishing, he looked around and said, "Is there any more? If so, give it to me. I can eat more." This left everyone even more dumbfounded. The next evening, as night fell, the grandfather said, "Tonight I won't be sleeping in my own house. I'll stay and sleep with you tonight." James replied, "All right, you can stay with me, no problem." As they lay down to sleep that night, the grandfather asked, "How on earth were you able to eat so much in that bed?" James gave a mysterious smile and said, "Grandfather, you'll understand if you go to the back of our house near the toilet area in the morning. You'll see exactly what I did with all that food."
After saying these mysterious words, they prepared to go to sleep. But then an unprecedented thing happened. Every time the grandfather tried to lie down, some invisible force hurled him out of bed. The first time he fell, he thought it might be an accident. But when it happened a second and third time, he shook James awake and said, "What's going on? Something is forcefully throwing me out of your bed." James responded with that same mysterious smile and said, "This is nothing to worry about." The grandfather stared at him in shock for a moment. Then, unable to bear it any longer, left the room in the middle of the night and went home. A few days later, one morning, James vanished from his room. No one could find him despite searching everywhere, and he remained missing for 7 days. The family was deeply concerned, not knowing that the unseen force that possessed him had taken him to another realm. When James opened his eyes, he found himself in a strange, luminous, serene world, unlike anything he had ever seen. There were no ordinary people there, only astonishingly beautiful men and women, more captivating than he had ever witnessed. In this mysterious realm,
An exquisitely beautiful woman spoke to James and said, "You must not marry anyone except me. If you marry someone else, you will suffer a terrible fate." James promised her right then, "I will not marry." But the beautiful woman made it clear, "If you marry another, one of your eyes will be blinded, and you will be crippled for life." After 7 days, James suddenly found himself back in his room. His family was overjoyed to have him home. And when they asked where he had been and what had happened, he could only say that he had been taken to another realm where he spoke with a mysterious figure. Not long after, under pressure from the situation and those around him, James was married. In doing so, he failed to honor the promise he had made to that supernatural beauty, and soon the prediction came true. One of James's eyes was lost, and he was left crippled for life. To this day, he remains a patient in a hospital in the Kuril Biswa Road area of Dhaka. His experience and its tragic aftermath remain a haunting mystery. This story reminds us that many unseen forces and mysteries surround us, beyond the reach of ordinary understanding. Sometimes curiosity and pride can lead us into situations with devastating, lifelong consequences. The story of James is not just